And it starts with a quote from Dorothy Allison, who writes, "I read about it in the paper, 2 paragraphs. I have carried that story with me ever since, wanting more, wanting no one to have to be those 2 stark paragraphs." Girls like me come from alleys, from dirt floors, from cold kitchens, from one thin blanket. Girls like me come from fists, from passing strangers, from wandering fathers, from mothers with one heel hooked on the bar stool. Girls like me come from drought, from war. When I was a child in Acapulco, I worked for a rich family, sweeping their kitchen, washing their dishes. One day, after a few nips, the cook, who was my mother's friend, said, "Come, work for me in the big house." I stood on a wooden box, washed dishes stamped with indigo trees and flowers, with birds like none I'd seen. I stood elbow deep in dirty water, dreamed of far places without greasy pans, nor the boss's wandering hands. The boss's wife had a red silk shawl embroidered with many colored swallows. She draped it like a flag on the back of her chair. It had come on a ship from Manila, from that land of shipbuilders and sailors, of travelers who years before brought Chinese porcelain and silk to Acapulco. Every time I walked by, I fingered its edges and felt like I was dipping my fingers into the tide. After I'd found the fault lines in 1 cup too many, when I daydreamed 1 dish too many to pieces, the cook ran me off, but not before I'd pinched that shawl, wrapped it around my waist under my dirty skirt. Running home, the silk rubbed my legs a river current. That's when I took to the road, the shawl with its swallows darting between thin trees stuffed at the bottom of my morral. In 1907, I crossed the narrow border that intersects splintering sidewalks of faded towns. If I'd known I'd left my country, I'd have crossed myself as I passed from one land to the other. Men's quick fingers are dangerous as lit dynamite, but I was a snake and slipped through. Sometimes I dressed as a boy, in 2 big shirts, in trousers yanked from backyard clotheslines, in boots snatched from just inside back porch doors. I stole what I did not find. When I had to, I worked. I traveled to a land named in my language that travelers pointed to with crooked fingers, Colorado. In my mind, it was paved in red velvet and hibiscus flowers. But when I got to those gold mining towns, I found dust, tubercular coughs, ragged men buried daily in the mines, and women whose every mouthful depended on what was brought to the surface. I hung gray sheets in the muddy yard of one of the best whorehouses in Cripple Creek. I heard his step on the gravel and saw his slim outline cut a dark slit into the bright morning. I could not tell if he was man, woman, or coyote standing on hind legs. I could not see his eyes, nor the plans he'd made before he even saw my face. So I'm going to skip ahead.